try.
Life sucks. No, I'm kidding.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today I am very excited because I am here with my friend Ashley.
Hi.
Ashley has a channel over at Elwoods in Training and you should go check it out because we have a video over here and then we're going to go over to her channel and do a video over there.
What?
So,
collabs.
you should go do it. Collabs are the best thing ever. Today we are here to talk about a book that both of us ended up reading this school year for our classes called The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. And it's about mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness. And it was pretty cool. To get us started off, like, Ashley, what class did you read this book for?
I read this book for Race, Crime, and Criminal Justice class
Ooh.
that I'm taking as part of my major. It was like upper division elective credit. And what we're trying to focus on is, especially since the class doesn't have a lot of sociology majors, we're focusing on really getting people to see how we're part of a bigger structure. It's not the individual's fault necessarily, although we do make individual choices, but really kind of see us in the broader picture.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I read this book for a writing class that all the people at our school are required to take and write about whatever we want, and I decided to write about how Black Lives Matter movement and the war on drugs are connected, and this was one of the books that I thought would be really interesting to read, and it was.
And it was.
It's filled with like so much, I don't even know where to start. Like, what was something that surprised you when reading like a statistic or something that was really interesting to you?
Well, the first thing that like really struck me about this book is that it was just like, to call something the new Jim Crow at first I was like, whoa, like
That's very loaded language.
Yeah, so I was really scared because I already, being like a sociology major, like I already knew like it's really bad, like it's horrible, and I personally I suffer from my own like oppression through like my race, which you can't tell. I'm like hella white looking. I'm not white at all. My race is not white, and so I was really scared to like really dive into it at first. But once I really dove into it and how she called it a caste system, I really was like, yes, like this is something I can actually tell people. Like, no, you don't understand. Like, yes, an individual makes their own choices, but you have to understand the life circumstances that are around them and how everything in their life is trying to lead them down this path, and that they can want everything to not do it, but everything is going to force them to do it in a certain way without taking away their autonomy.
Most definitely, and I think that's something that really frustrated me about this book was just like, or in society, is that people don't realize that like a lot of the times when you see the like what is that, the prison to something pipeline, what is that called, like the school to prison pipeline, something like that, and people are just like, oh well, it's just like people of color's fault. No. And I'm just kind of like, I grew up in a place where people, like, that was the only message we ever got, so reading this was really kind of validating because it was just seeing that no, there are actually like institutionalized things that were put into place that are actually kind of like messing people up and like screwing people over. And I was like,
spoiler alert.
If you don't know already, oops. But like, hopefully you do, because it's just really frustrating to just see like how ignorant like people can be to like the actual truth of things, and it's just so frustrating.
Especially like when we're talking about, remember when I was little, my dad was trying to explain to me like the Bloods and the Crips and like about gangs and stuff, because I didn't understand it. It was a really big thing at school. It's like, you Blood or your Crips, even though like none of us were actually part of the actual gang, but the way they like, he explained it to me as like a 7-year-old was like, he's like, okay, imagine that you're put in a cage, and I was like, okay, Dad. Then he's like, okay, now imagine someone else is put in there with you. I was like, okay. He's like, this is a tiny cage, you know, you can't really get out. And imagine somebody puts a cookie in the cage. And I was like, okay. He's like, and this cookie is the only food you know you will have for the next month of your life. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, so what are you going to do? And I was like, maybe share? He's like, nope, you can't share the cookie. One person gets a cookie. So he basically explained to me about how this territorial thing is like a fight for survival.
Yeah.
And how our society puts these people into situations in complete poverty, and what can they turn to at that point? The system, there's no safety net, like especially as we're seeing now this generation coming with crippling college debt. People are realizing more like there is no safety net, and when you're in an underprivileged race or area, like whether it's location, your race, your gender, like anything that marginalizes and oppresses you, there's no safety net under you, even more so.
Not at all. That's the most frustrating thing, and I think that's a really great way to explain it to a child. That's a really great way to explain it to anyone, because I think that most people would understand that. Everyone, if you need to explain that to someone, just cookie in a cage, you got it. Something that I really didn't get until I came to college, and this book really highlighted it more, like the whole thing, mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness. And colorblindness is probably, I think, one of the worst things that someone can think. But, like, it's so weird to think that people think that's, like, a norm. It's like, got color.
Gets me so mad.
I know. Like, I hate that when, like, teachers are, like, specifically teachers, because I'm a education major, but this happens everywhere, that people will say, I don't care if the child is black or white or green with polka dots. Like, I will love them all the time. And, like, I watched this video, I can't remember who, but it was, like, a lady talking about race, and she was like, who here has heard people say that? And, like, the whole room raises their hands. And she was like, does anyone see a problem with that? No, and all of them were like, no, she's saying that she loves everyone. Like, no. And it was like, you just estranged kids of color to someone who is of, like, non-existence, to, like, an alien, pretty much. Like, green with polka dots, there is no one with green with polka dots. And that is saying you are as, like, different as something that is green with polka dots. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's, like, the worst thing. Like, colorblindness, like, I'm writing a paper about this for education right now, but it's like, colorblindness, when you teach a child colorblindness, it kind of tells that child that we're all the same, therefore talking about differences is bad.
Yep.
So when you get older and that child is like, people are like, let's talk about differences. They're like, no, if I talk about the differences, I'm racist.
Yep.
And then in turn, that makes, like, their racist acts that they may have, like, a no-no to talk about. So it's like, you may be racist, but you can't talk about it because that's the racist part. And it's,
yeah, and it also tries to lump together, like, the human experience, which is definitely not the same for people of race, gender, sexuality. Like, if you've ever watched The Color of Fear, this guy, like, loses it to this other guy because he's trying to say, let's treat each other like we're all human, as if, like, white and black, Asian, Hawaiian, like, that's all synonymous, when those are completely different experiences. And if you just say, let's all treat each other like we're human, like, okay, yes, let's treat each other with a sense of humanity,
yes,
but recognizing there's a difference between growing up with people are looking at you, following you around stores because they are projecting, like, a racial profile onto you, that you're going to steal something, or when you get away with something because people don't assume that it was you. But I mean, I'm just saying, maybe that's a hypothetical situation that would never ever happen.
Another thing that, like, I actually had to, like, stop and put the book down when I read it was that, like, there are more people, or black people, in jail now than there was in pre-Civil War, like, times in slavery. And I'm just like, what? Like, people, it really, like, makes me upset when people are like, there's no racism today. Racism is a thing of the past. And it's like, no, racism has turned into completely institutionalized things and microaggressions and all these horrible things that you have to be, like, either within the group that is being marginalized or educated in a certain way to be able to see. And it's just, like, so stressful because we're in this world where it's like, we have a black president, it's all good. And it's just kind of like,
yes, because one person, I mean, thank you to the Obama administration. You guys are amazing. But I mean, in the past, okay, let's say if we're going with this argument, like, okay, racism is in the past. Okay, so in that time period, people who identified as African American couldn't vote, right? And this book literally talks about that, about how people who become felons, they can't vote. You're stripping away their American rights. So I mean, we haven't gone that far. And if you say, well, there's white people in prison too, I'm like, yes, but not the proportions that there are of black people in prison.
Yeah, and, like, going off of that thing about not being able to vote, in my paper that I wrote, it was saying that, like, once a person is incarcerated, you can't vote. You can't vote while in incarceration, you can't vote when you get out. You have housing taken away a lot of the time. It's really hard to find a job. It's really hard to do, like, a whole bunch of stuff, like school. You can't get, like, funding for things. So, like, a lot of people end up going back because that's the only way that they could get money. So it's like this, like, this is the part of the video where the SD card stopped, like containing my video, but Ashley and I kept talking because we were really in on the passionate stuff, so yay technology, my voice. What I was saying right before the video cut out is that now we live in a society where the system has made a never-ending cycle for many Black communities where once you are in the criminal justice system in any form, you find a really hard time getting out, therefore having a hard time succeeding in our country in the way that it is today. Ashley and I went on to talk about a lot of things, but in the end of our video, we kind of just discussed about how even though a lot of the stuff that we talked about in this video is really kind of sad and disheartening, it really is wonderful that we can have these conversations and that there are books like The New Jim Crow that have made it possible for these conversations to come forward. There is a lot of things in media and in books and in things that we have access to that allow us to educate ourselves, and we talked about how important it is to educate ourselves, and I think that right now, since we are both in college, we are coming to that realization, and we kind of just thought that this video would be really important to have because it is another way for people to educate themselves and to become more aware of the way that the world works. Thank you very much for watching this video. Unfortunately, Ashley isn't here, but she is wonderful and you should go check out her channel. I will leave it down in the description box below. And you should go check out her channel because we did another video over there because I love her and she is amazing. So you should go check that video out, which I will also leave down in the description box once she puts it up. And I hope you all have a wonderful booktastic day, and I will see you in our next video. Bye! You're gonna watch me, leave me alone, Jala! I swear to God! Ah! You're so mean to me. Stop watching me! Oh my gosh. Watch me or whatever you're watching. This is the part of the video